welcome back to Combat Mission Shock Force 2, where we're going to take a look at the AAV7A1, the Amtrak. US Marines are tackling the platoon patrol this week. They have massive 52-man platoons, which I've already covered in detail in another video, link to that down below, but I haven't given their AAVs any attention. AAV stands for Amphibious Assault Vehicle, which tells you pretty much everything you need to know about it. It was designed to get Marines from ship to shore, then to support them from shore to their objectives, whether that's by providing transport, firepower, supplies, communications, etc. Basically all the things that vehicles can do for their dismounts. Ship to shore movement introduces some design constraints that we haven't really seen before. We've looked at plenty of amphibious vehicles, or vehicles with an amphibious capability. Soviet IFVs like the BMP series in particular are a good example, but none of them look very much like an AAV. The primary reason for this is that the AAV is designed to operate at sea. They're typically launched from LHDs, which are ocean-going vessels that really do not want to be hanging around in a contested environment or getting too close to the shore. So the AAVs may have to swim several kilometers to get to their landing zones, contending with waves and surf the whole time. That's a very different physical task than crossing a few hundred meters of comparatively calm river. So the AAV has a boat-shaped prow, a lightweight aluminium hull, and a large, read buoyant, rear compartment. Ship-to-shore movement has other requirements too. Something like a BMP is very specifically a component of a motor rifle squad. They are not usually separated. But the ship-to-shore capabilities of the AAV are far too useful to waste by incorporating them directly into the infantry. Instead, they're organised into their own more independent formations where they can take on other vital tasks like transferring supplies ashore and bringing casualties back to shipboard medical facilities, or just loading up more Marines and landing them somewhere else. So in terms of platoons and companies, AAVs are non-organic assets. Obviously they can be assigned for specific missions or tasks, but they slot into the TOE at a much higher level. For all this, the AAV actually has a very standard layout. If we start at the front, then yeah, we have the boat-shaped prow, but we also have the engine on the right and the driver on the left, just like Bradley, BMP, Warrior, Marder, etc. Behind the driver we have a cupola for the commander, who's the only crew member who will open up in Shock Force. The engine exhaust is behind him on top of the hull. Obviously it's just going to drown if it's any lower down. And then we have an offset turret on the right. This is somewhat atypical for Western type turret designs. It's a one-man turret operated by the vehicle gunner and mounts a Mark 19 automatic grenade launcher and the ubiquitous M2 50 caliber heavy machine gun. These weapons are very much there to help suppress the enemy. The Mark 19, as modelled in Shock Force 2, is not tremendously accurate, but the AAVs each carry 864 rounds of ammunition, and because AAVs are usually employed en masse, they can put out a faintly ridiculous amount of fire. With that much unpleasantness going down range, the modelled inaccuracy translates into an effective area of effect weapon. They appear to be firing HE grenades rather than HEDP, but they're still effective against light vehicles, at least at close range. The 50 is the 50, so no notes. It's also capable of neutralising light vehicles, and because of the trajectory of the rounds, it's much more accurate than the Mark 19. The 50 comes with 1,000 rounds of armour-piercing incendiary. The turret doesn't have any thermal imaging equipment in Shock Force 2's time period, meaning that the AAVs can't shoot through smoke. Speaking of, there are smoke projectors on the back of the turret. These will put a smoke screen down about 30 meters in front of the turret facing. As a bonus, this is multispectral smoke, so it will block thermals as well as unaided line of sight. As you might expect for a vehicle that is designed to float, the AAVs are not well armoured. They're just about proof against 14.5mm heavy machine gun fire to the front. The variant in Shock Force has some ridged applique armour that extends this level of protection around the sides, but that's the limit. 30mm cannons upwards and any kind of heat warhead are going to just ruin an AAV's day. This is exacerbated by the AAV's sheer size. It is huge, it's hard to hide, and although it's nice to be able to peek over walls and buildings, it's an easy target. It sits lower in the water when it's swimming, which gives it a much lower profile, But obviously that makes the AAV a small target on a featureless plane, which is not good. And it's not clear whether combat mission models the way that the water itself would protect the AAV from incoming fire. When we factor in the way that Pixel Trapper don't float, and everybody on board a vehicle is lost if an amphibious vehicle is destroyed in the water, then being engaged on the water is extremely risky, as modelled in Combat Mission. So being a smaller target on the way to the beach or the other side of the river is not necessarily that helpful. Also not helpful is the amphibious speed. The AAVs are about twice as fast as all the other amphibious vehicles in Shock Force 2 in the water, but that still only amounts to about 200 meters a minute. So large water obstacles or beach landings are going to involve an uncomfortable amount of time exposed. On land, the AAVs aren't going to win any awards for their mobility, but they're not bad. They scored 512 points on the vehicle mobility test. That's almost equal to the FB432 Bulldog, and it's in the same ballpark as the BMP-1P, BMP-2 and BTR-60PB, which are all clustered close to the 500 mark. The AAV's rear compartment can fit 21 passengers who get in and out via a ramp at the back. This is obviously a lot of space. It means AAVs can carry pallets of supplies, for instance, but it also means that there's a lot of decisions to be made around who travels in which vehicle. In Shock Force 2's Marine TOE, the Marines have 13-man squads. So one AAV can carry one squad with 8 seats left over for HQ elements, weapons teams or other specialists like attached forward observers. But there are 52 Marines in a platoon, which means that they fill 2 and a bit AAVs. It gets complicated when you're thinking in low-level infantry terms. To some extent, that's because AAVs come in their own 12-vehicle platoons and they're intended to be used en masse, with passengers and cargoes distributed in such a way that the loss of one AAV doesn't compromise any capability. So no putting all the company javelins in one vehicle, for example. The TLDR here is that the carrying capacity of AAVs doesn't line up neatly with the TOE. There are good reasons for that, and it does allow for task organisation in a way that lower capacity vehicles don't. But it also makes figuring out who goes where more complex. Finally, as you might expect for a vehicle with such a cavernous interior, the AAVs carry a little extra ammunition for the Marines. 4,000 rounds of 5.56, 2,000 rounds of 7.62, 72 40mm grenades, 7 M72A7 Laws, 3 AT4s, 6 Heat and 6 HEDP rockets for the SMOR, and then 2 javelins as well. The crew themselves are armed with M16A4s. Every Marine is a rifleman after all, and they have the usual night vision and body armour, etc, etc. So, that's a quick once-over of the AAV7A1. In short, it's an armoured personnel carrier that can swim, or a landing craft that can drive, depending on your perspective. That design compromise has produced an oversized, poorly protected vehicle, but one that gives Marines critical capabilities. Despite their amphibious role, they're inevitably going to end up being used to effectively mechanise Marine infantry, but as long as they're handled carefully, they can do a good job of that. How they'll do in the platoon patrol is another question, we'll have to see. I'll leave a link to that playthrough down below when it goes live. In the meantime, thanks for watching, hope that was interesting and useful. If you'd like to see these videos early and support the channel, you can do so via Patreon and YouTube memberships. Whether you do or not, I'll see you in the next one.